you check the children. Show a little massive
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Wolfman.
We are recording a very late review tonight, but we are very excited to do so because finally we were able to get our eyeballs on the 2025 James Gunn DC Universe reboot with Superman, which was originally going to be Superman Legacy. I think.
I was literally just thinking about this in my head. And I'm like, I'm really glad he didn't put some bullshit title after it.
Yeah.
Just leave it Superman.
So yeah, you guys know I have been a massive Superman fan ever since 1992 when he was killed. I was 11 years old when it happened, or actually I might have just turned 12 when it happened, but I have been a massive Superman fan ever since. I've bought Superman weekly, comic book wise, ever since. I do have that many Superman comics.
He's got a lot of comics.
I'm an 85 long box sort of comic collector at this point. And probably 5 to 6 of those are just solely Superman comics, from the regular continuity to all the Elseworld stuff. Like, I love Superman, and that is the perspective you're going to get from me in this review, just so you know. Robert, a quick history for everyone before we jump into, because it's not a dump at all, jump into this movie. What is your history with Superman?
So, mine starts with Kristopher Reeve.
Okay.
That's where my Superman starts. And, like, he obviously will always be my first. Like, he's my Superman and everything like that. I've read here and there with the comics. I've personally been more of a fan of the Green Lantern over Superman.
Fair.
Like, that's kind of where I am at and everything.
Those are my top two.
At least in the
Hal Jordan specifically.
Fair. Yeah, when we were just talking about that off camera and everything about the different ones. But no, like
Show me your ring.
Oh yeah, well it's technically his ring.
Show him my ring.
Yeah, it's technically his ring. I'm just wearing it for a thumbnail, which you guys will see. Or actually, you've already seen because you're watching this video.
Clicked it, yeah.
Yeah. What the hell? But yeah, no. So that's really it goes more so with the films, more so than the comics.
Okay.
So I read the comics.
But considering all the films up to this point, what would you say is your Superman? Was it Christopher Reeve?
Oh, it's
was it George Reeves? Was it Brandon Routh?
No, hell no.
Was it?
No.
I wouldn't.
He is my least favorite.
Okay.
Version of Superman.
Wow. Okay.
I've seen some of the stuff and everything that when they brought him back.
When he came back in Crisis on the shows, he was really good.
It was. I didn't dislike it.
They gave him a redemptive sort of thing.
Yeah, and again, I feel it too. It was just, man, that movie was crap. That was an ass movie, and it just didn't. It didn't do him well.
Okay.
It kind of screwed him over. More so like with we were talking off camera too with Tom Welling on Smallville.
Yeah.
That's a quote unquote Superman, but we don't obviously get to see him really become Superman.
Him and Dean Cain were my Superman.
That was the other thing too.
I watched all of Lois and Clark.
Too.
Actually, I never did finish the 4th season, but I did. I loved Lois and Clark when it was going, and then I watched all 10 years of Smallville attentively. Like, I loved that. So technically, both of those guys were my Supermen growing up. You know what I mean?
No, that is fair and everything.
Is it Tim Daly that was the animated Superman? It was Daly. Let me double check.
I think it was Tim Daly.
I thought it was too.
I was looking up earlier actually, and the amount of people that have voiced Superman throughout the comics.
It's crazy.
Or not comics, but like,
Tim Daly.
Video games and TV shows. It's kind of nuts, and some of them never would have guessed you'd be doing a Superman voice.
The only reason I bring up Tim Daly is because my favorite Batman is Kevin Conroy overall. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people out there that say Tim Daly is their favorite Superman.
That's fair.
Because he was Superman for the Superman Adventures as well as all of Justice League Unlimited and stuff, if I'm not mistaken. So, and this, let's be honest, this was a live action Justice League Unlimited sort of situation.
Fair.
You know what I mean?
That is fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an unfair comparison.
With the amount of what we got, It absolutely is.
So
Yes.
let's dive into it, shall we?
Honestly, we might as well.
So we're gonna do this as a non-spoiler review, and then we're gonna afterwards record a separate spoiler review that we will release later in the weekend. But this is intended to go up on Tuesday, the 8th at noon, along with a lot of other reviews. So we're gonna keep this non-spoiler for you guys. Yeah. We are going to dive into that, but we won't do it in this review.
We're gonna tiptoe.
We're gonna tiptoe through the tulips on
heavy.
this. Yes, indeed. But and it's funny, and we'll we'll get.
Is
to
it funny?
So my overall thoughts are, I loved this movie. I mean, I was one of those that was pulling for James Gunn. I kept saying, "In Gunn, I trust." I was never a fan of the Snyder version of Superman. I always looked at it as an Elseworlds version of Superman. So it's not my Superman, but it is a Superman out there in the multiverse. So that's the way I always looked at those films. But I thought it was a dramatic mischaracterization of the actual Prime Universe Superman. And when I saw what James Gunn was doing in the trailers and everything that he talked about, and as far as the comic storylines that inspired him, Superman Birthright, All-Star Superman especially, amongst others, he had very, very good taste. And he clearly understood that Superman was supposed to be a symbol of hope, a flawed symbol of hope, that people rallied behind. And I had that impression, and I was proven to be correct in my estimation. Again, in the overall thoughts, I will say that this film, my only real gripe with this film, and it's not even that big of a gripe, is to say that it didn't have the emotional core that a couple of the Guardians of the Galaxy films had. But the reason why, in my opinion, is because Gunn had so much. He was setting up an entire universe with this one film, but in subtle ways. Yep. And so he took the time to do that correctly instead of spending time on a particular emotional core. Yes. That's not to say that there's not emotion in this film, because there definitely is. But it doesn't have that, and that would be my only gripe. My positives, my overall positives are, this is the best version of the DC comic universe put to live action we've ever seen. Flat out, period. Like, this is the DC universe in live action. I think the characterization of every single person in this film was spot on. I don't think there was a person that didn't act like they should have acted, in my opinion, in the entire film. From Superman all the way down to the littler known players, to even the good.
Even Jimmy was great.
The characterization of Jimmy is very accurate. He was accurate to the comics. He unlike to everyone's flummoxation, they don't know why he's a chick magnet and stuff. And I was surprised that they went that route, but there we were. And so the characterization of every single person in this film was fantastic. And to me, just to round out my overall thoughts, I think that Guy Gardner and Metamorpho stole all of their scenes. And I absolutely, I adored this film for what it was.
No, I absolutely agree. Like, I kind of, from what little I put out, I'm like, this is an absolute must-see. I had such fun with this movie, and it's said into another discussion was this was the most relatable and the most Superman you were able to sympathize with since Kristopher Reeve.
It's the most human Superman
absolutely
that we've gotten. I
think. Between the day-to-day struggles of just trying to find his place, because again, we're technically,
this is year 3.
You want to call it babyface Superman. This is basically where we're at. He's learning things, and you're going along with that ride, and it was fun to see. I had an absolute blast with it, and when him and I both came out with, yes, Meta and Guy were the best part of this movie. Hands down. Well, of course, too. I'm a big Nathan Fillion fan.
Yeah. Well, I am too. But I like, my thing is, I was like, okay, Nathan Fillion's great, but he is too old to be playing Guy Gardner. But I forgave it because he nailed
his
Guy's personality so well that like if we had gotten a Nathan Fillion Guy Gardner movie 20 years ago, there wouldn't have been anyone else that I would have picked.
That's fair.
After seeing his performance of Guy in this, he's the perfect Guy Gardner 20 years ago.
Fair.
But that's not to say he's not the perfect Guy Gardner now. He still is. He still embodies the character. And so well. And all of the time that we got to spend with him, which was a little bit more than I anticipated we'd get.
True.
But they
Well,
they did the Green Lantern stuff so well that I couldn't be more excited about Lanterns, the TV series that we're getting.
True, and that was the other thing is that whole setup with them and then the Justice League basically, or the Justice Gang.
Yeah.
The Justice Gang.
That's a good name. All right, go ahead.
Like it was a fun dynamic to see because again too like they were kind of already established where Superman wasn't.
Well,
like, he is, but he isn't.
It's his third year.
Yeah,
And like that's the nice thing about the film is they start off with context for everything, text context.
Absolutely, because I had mentioned that to Cecil too. Is I'm sick of the damn origin movies. Don't just wrap it up in that quick little nice text and everything, and how Gunn does it to lead right into that opening scene was perfect. It catches you up on everything that you need to know without any bullshit.
In increments of 3.
Literally.
So yeah, no, I agree.
And there was one cameo that I was kind of surprised with in the beginning when we get to the fortress.
Okay, we'll get there.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, that's a spoiler
Right,
thing.
Yeah, well, in the spoilers we'll get there.
But yeah, it was kind of just fun. I'm like, oh, neat.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah. So overall thoughts, I had an absolute blast with this movie, and again, I highly recommend seeing it. And this is one of those rare times where I'm excited to see this again in the theater, and I'm willing to go see this again in the theater.
Yeah. So story-wise, the story is about again Superman Year 3. But this is where Superman is learning that he is vulnerable. Apparently, his first 2 years were pretty, easy for him because that's part of what the text explains. Like we're starting off with him, having lost kind of for the first time.
His first fight.
Yeah. No, not his first fight. His first loss. Right. That's what. That's what it
he
indicates.
loses his first fight. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So. That first off, I was like, okay, cool. So what we got, what we're starting with is something I've already seen, and that's fine. So we learned that basically the main crux of the first trailer is the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
So I was like, sweet, okay, cool. So we're getting to all this now. Everything else is going to be new, and that is pretty much how it played out. But so it's Superman. The crux of the story is him having what you see in the first full trailer with his interaction between him and Lois when he's being interviewed by her, where he's talking about him interfering as Superman in a foreign conflict. This is the basic A plot of the film. It is a big part of the film. And so I know there's going to be a slew of people saying, oh, Gunn made Superman political, when it's like, no, this has always been a plot point of Superman. So much so that in the early 2000s, I was telling Robert that they changed it from Truth, Justice, and the American Way to Truth, Justice, and good for all, or something like that. I can't remember what the new slogan is. It's not as catchy. But
even Snyder did the same thing. With the whole government thing and him being an alien and shit.
Right, all that stuff. But the approach here is much more comic booky, and but not in a silly way, so to speak. So anyway, yeah. So that is the crux of the story, and then it's also Superman, learning his limits, learning who a true enemy of his can be. And it's his interaction with the other superheroes that are already existing in this version of the DCU. I don't want to say more than that for fear of spoiling anything, but it also focuses on the relationship between him and Lois, if that wasn't obvious from the trailers, So yeah, that's the long and short of the story. He's presented with obstacles between Lex and Ultraman. And he has to overcome said obstacles. And there's a lot of stuff in the film that they don't even touch on in the trailers at all. So that was nice. That was nice. But yeah, I mean, overall, my thoughts on the story are, again, if anyone wanted to consider this a gripe, they maybe could, but the film is a bit all over the place in as much as it's trying to do a whole lot in one movie. That's not to say it's unwieldily done.
No.
That is to say, he does a lot and he manages to keep it all wrangled in, but some people might think there's too much going on and there's not quite enough of a central focus of the film.
No, that is fair. Like, and I can definitely see people having a thing with that, especially with the location jumps.
Yeah.
Especially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it flows through with the story how it's supposed to, so it doesn't necessarily, like, if I feel like if someone's bitching about that, they're just bitching to bitch.
Nitpicking. Kind
Yeah.
Of fair.
Like, I like, because again, like, what do you want? Like, you know, a massive fucking movie, you want just 2 locations?
Yeah, that's fair.
What the hell? Like,
All right,
let's showcase the world.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, but honestly, like, I don't have much else to add on the story. You kind of
I mean, because we don't want to ruin anything.
Well, exactly,
So we'll talk more
exactly.
about story when we do our spoiler review, which again, you can come back in a couple of days and watch that. But yeah, let's move on to the acting in the film. I thought everyone was phenomenal. I think that this is, some people are gonna maybe crucify me for this, but I think this is the best overall version of Clark Kent Superman that we've gotten. I think Kristopher Reeve is the best up until now, but I think Cornsweet nailed it even a little bit more with a bit more humanity than Kristopher Reeve even put in it. That's not to say that Kristopher Reeve didn't put humanity in. He absolutely did, but he still had that God above feel to him at times. Cornsweet, even though he's got the powers,
it was a more serious tone.
It was,
versus
yeah.
what this was.
Right, this is a more comic booky tone.
It is.
But you never, even though Cornsweet has the powers, you never got the idea or the impression that he felt above anyone. He was never portrayed as this Jesus Christ figure like he was in the entirety of the Snyder films. Overall, I think that Cornsweet is, you know, the best overall version of both Clark and Superman that we've gotten. I think that Nicholas Hoult is the best version of Lex that we've ever gotten.
I
by
his
far.
version.
Outside of one decision that Gunn made with Lex, I feel like he's the best Lex we've ever gotten. And I feel like this is the best Lois that we've ever gotten, to be honest with as well.
I really enjoyed her too.
I thought that she was phenomenal. I think Mr. Terrific was amazing. The characterization, again, I think the characterization of each of the people involved in this film is the best that we've ever gotten. And some we haven't even seen before. Mr. Terrific we haven't seen before, but knowing what he's like in the comics, this is a fantastic characterization of him. Guy Gardner was phenomenal. Hawk Girl, or Hawk Woman, I'm not sure what they technically called her in this. She was phenomenal. Jimmy was phenomenal. Perry was great. You know, like, even Steve Lombard. Like, I love the sports asshole Steve Lombard. Cat Grant was phenomenal. Like, everyone was so good, and they were written so well that all the actors shined in their spots. I think Jimmy, you know, could have been done poorly, but he was perfect for this version of Jimmy.
And also, too, they casted like the perfect looking kid for Jimmy.
100%. Perfect age, too.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And he was another one. It's like, I had so much fun with the character for even, like, we didn't get a whole lot of him. Like, we did, like, but not.
Yeah.
But he was fun.
He was really
He was
fun.
a lot of fun, and like
Just
the dynamic between him and Lois.
The
was
delay that he put on some of his deliveries because he had to.
Oh,
was
oh
so
yeah,
great.
yeah. The ponder. He's like, I have to.
He's just
do
like,
this.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't
So
want to,
great.
but it's
Yeah,
like
it's so
at the
great.
same time, it's like, bro.
Yeah,
like what?
Well, but I
At
mean,
the same time-
imagine all the problems under the hood. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
So, all right, continuing on though. So, yeah, your thoughts on the rest of the acting?
But yeah, no. So again, with especially Cornsweet, it was that. How is he gonna do for the longest time? And within the first 20 minutes of the movie, I was very well set, and I thoroughly enjoyed this version of Superman.
I think this is the best Mon Pa Kent that we've gotten.
Well,
too.
and that was what I was getting to as well. Is Pruitt Vincent and Neva. Oh gosh, I can't remember her.
Good for
last
you for
name.
trying and getting close though.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you.
They
were
were
awesome.
absolutely fantastic, and then like the little scenes, like we kind of see it in the trailer with Clark, with Clark and his dad talking and shit like that, and that just even that little moment that we got,
That whole scene was so beautiful.
It was the right amount of touching of
It felt like father son.
Yeah. You just
So-
need like that go home kind of like you got your pep talk that you needed to get back in the fight.
I loved Smallville's version of Pa Kent.
True.
But Pruitt is the best older version of Pa Kent that we've ever gotten.
Fair.
He's so good. And again, he doesn't even have that much time as Pa, but both him and Ma are so good in the movie. Their introduction was
scene,
so
like
great.
the phone covers, it was
So great.
hilarious, and
So
it
great.
was super. It was typical old people.
Yeah.
It was great. It was
So okay,
adorable.
so we love the acting.
Super, absolutely super fun.
So next, I think we should talk about the filmmaking itself. The cinematography.
Yep.
I think the cinematography, and then we'll talk about the sound design and the score and everything.
Okay.
Cinematography, I thought, was phenomenal. I thought Gunn knows how to make a comic book movie, and I don't mean just the superhero bits. I mean down to when Clark first shows up at the planet and goes inside, and we see Clark enter the planet, and then we do a whip pan to a dude reading the paper, and we see the headline. But that sort of whip pan to the Daily Planet, like I was like, that's so fucking like that felt Lois and Clark to me.
Fair.
And like it felt very comic booky, where it's like, show the paper, and then we go up and we see the planet inside, and we see the dynamic between Lois and Clark and Jimmy and Perry and all that. And I just fell into the world so easily. But yeah, so sticking with the cinematography, that sort of thing I really appreciated, and a lot of people had problems with some of the close-ups of Superman while flying. They did that a lot in the film, and it wasn't like fish-eyed, like it was in the trailer. I didn't bump into it. I actually liked it because we haven't gotten something like that. Like Cavill flying was fine, but he felt like he was positioned and like stuff was whipping around him. Corn Sweat looks like he's actually kind of flying and like imperfect about it. Like what I think Gunn nailed is the imperfectness of someone with powers that isn't fully in control, like hasn't had 20 years experience dealing with them and stuff. So, but I also think that a lot of the way they shot those scenes were for dynamic purposes. To make it feel like you're sitting there and you're whipping through the wind with him, instead of watching him whipping through the wind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's
Does
true.
that make sense?
No, it does. No, honestly though, it's the only scene that I had like a little gripe about with how they shot was the opening face scene.
The first time you see him,
Yeah.
In that close up.
It just kind of. It just made him, like, the way it was shot, it just kind of made him look like he had a little lazy eye, and I'm just like,
I didn't find that problem, but fair enough.
that was the only shot, honestly, I had, it just has stuck with me. I'm just like, that could have been better.
But Gunn knows when to go close and knows when to go wide for, like, the big kaiju battle and, and that and
But
that
also,
whole thing.
too, and I had mentioned this, it could also have been with our screen. Because of how
we did see it in IMAX.
Yeah. So with it being a large and wider screen, it could have distorted just that little bit. But who knows? I don't fucking know.
I didn't have the issue with it. I just thought it was a new way to show the flying, and I was fine with it. I thought it was cool.
The scene coming back to the fortress as he's going through the various
climates.
Climates.
Yeah.
Like,
I noticed that too.
That I love.
Yeah, he's flying all the way across the earth for reasons, and
dash.
flying through all different climates, and they really focus. Like he goes, like it's so cool. It's rapid succession. It's like sunlight, rain, clouds, like, and then just like he goes through it all so
ice
fast.
storms,
Ice storms. I was like, oh,
no,
that's such cool attention to detail.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That probably, think about it, was one of my more favorite shots.
Yeah.
In that movie.
And that's one of those shots.
Mm-hmm.
Because it goes like it starts in front of him, and then it goes side, and stuff.
I think they utilized it better in that scene though.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And that's the thing. And
They dialed it in more.
Yeah, I'm not
yeah.
saying it wasn't like a bad technique to use,
Yeah.
or anything like that, or it just
You know,
it felt like it was utilized better.
You know, I think it might have worked more is because you have more to focus on than just his face coming at you.
Fair.
There's like you're paying attention to the other stuff going on while he's coming at you.
No, that's
instead
fair.
of just like boom, it's his face
and
the whole
a little
time.
bit on the side. Yeah.
That might have been it.
That is probably fair. So.
All right,
I'll give
so
it that.
so cinematography wise, so then again, getting back to the fact that Gunn knows when to use tights, he knows when to use wides, he knows when to use the mediums and stuff. But again, he knows how to shoot action in dynamic ways, and he knows how to shoot action in comedic ways as well. Like
the especially with again, it's even shown in the trailer with the shots of Guy.
Right, that I was thinking more.
Those following shots and everything as he's just fucking shit up.
Dude, I was thinking more like the first time he's holding the kaiju's foot and what he's trying to handle.
Oh yeah.
I was like, there's only one thing he can do, and then he did that thing.
Yeah.
And then like they went a little like I was like with the end. I was
yeah,
like,
you didn't have to do that.
Well,
it's
true. It didn't. But it didn't. It was clearly not hard enough to make a difference.
No,
but I was like, that's the only thing he can do, and then he did it, and I was like, yeah. So like,
boot him.
like Gunn knows, like he knew what to do when he needed to do it, and he like. He knew how to make the claustrophobic angles, and he knew how to do the big grandiose stuff, and yeah, I think the cinematography is top notch, absolutely top notch.
Fair.
Sound design and score. So score is soundtrack and score and sound design. You start. I'll shut up.
So
Sorry, I'm so excited to talk about it.
No, you're good. So no, the score, the sound design especially, and one of the things that I again picking up with the flying is the subtleness of the wind whipping through, because it's the same effect of you're driving with the windows down and you get that wind in your ear, and they utilize
that constant tone.
Yeah, they utilize that so nice with just that subtle flap of the cape in the back, little things like that, and then even just little background conversations that were happening and like people talking just even in the initial scene of the Daily Bugle, you have those little sound bits and everything like this. Like he did so well with just bringing everything together. I don't really have much else on that.
Yeah, sound design was phenomenal. It really brought you into the world, and there's not a ton else to say. I would say the soundtrack, there was only like 4 or 5 songs from like known bands, and a lot of them were kind of punk and stuff.
One of them
apparently
was one of the him and his brother, I think, wrote.
Okay, fair. But apparently there are playlists on Spotify that you can download that he did character-specific playlists. So like there's a playlist for Superman, like music that inspired him for Superman, music that inspired Mr. Terrific, music that inspired, everyone else.
Lex.
Yeah. So all that's in there, but yeah. So sound design and score. I mean, the score. I gotta say, one of the things that I teared up a little bit a couple of times. One of them was the first time hearing the score right at the very beginning. The score, just when we were seeing the logo and stuff, just because I was like, oh my God, it's actually happening. And then I would say also, I also teared up when, I don't want to spoil anything, so I can't do that. But when we got into the fortress for the first time and we saw the things that we can't spoil, the way that was portrayed was so straight out of the comics and so beautifully done. And like I had tears welling up and like starting to come out of my eyes just because I was so happy to see that it was done right and done with care and respect. So yeah, I loved that, and sound design was in on that too. I thought it was really cool that there was a language issue, that needed be deciphered that's never really focused on in Superman lore.
Yep.
Right? Because everyone speaks English in Superman lore otherwise, in all the other movies, and that's just not the case. So yeah, I loved that, and that was sound design too. Yep. So yeah, all of it was fantastic. I think the biggest thing we maybe need to touch on, though, is the effects.
Oh, absolutely.
So
effects and costume.
Yeah. Okay, so what did you think of both of those?
Well,
I guess production design and costume is the same. Let's do production design and costume before effects.
That's fair. That's fair.
So production design is in sets and all of that, and the costumes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I got you. All right. So.
Sorry. It's more for them than you.
Is it?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Maybe. It is almost 12:30 in the morning.
Fair.
I've been up for way too long. So I was mentioning to Cecil on outside prior to filming, is the suit especially looked so much nicer in this than with the initial shots of what we were getting for the press stuff and shit. I was absolutely sold with it.
Doesn't look as great in still as it does in motion.
That's true, but also too though, like, and that's more so because of like the CG movement effects and things like that. But he still wore the suit very well. It is a shame that it does hide some of his build.
It does. But it doesn't have fake muscles.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you definitely get to see it in one of the shots when he doing the interview, and like you motherfucker got built.
He's a beefy dude.
But no, like from Hot Girl, Mr. Fantastic or Mr. Terrific.
Yeah, Mr. Terrific. Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Well, we're about to get a Mr. Fantastic.
I know.
I know.
We were talking about that earlier, and for some reason my mind just can't get off of that. But no, like Hot Girl, even down to the little subtle things of Lex's tailored suits. They were fucking snazzy. But no, you can't go, like, Gunn knows what he's doing with his costumes, and he, like, even with Guardians, like, he doesn't floof unnecessary bullshit, and that's what I appreciate. He modernizes it, but still keeps it very continuity heavy, and I can always appreciate that. I'm a big sucker for continuity.
Well, that and well, so to tag up on that and get into the production design a little bit, I feel like
The Fortress.
all of the locations, the Fortress was amazing. Although we only got to see a very small section of it.
That's true.
But I feel like the Fortress was amazing. I feel like Lois's apartment was also very, very apropos for, reporter salary. I thought that was great. I feel like Lex's base of operations, sort of above it all, was really cool. Very Luthor. I feel like the prison area, without spoiling anything, was really cool.
That was a wickedly neat design.
Yep, really, really cool. Very reminiscent of Cabin in the Woods, if I do say so myself.
That is true. But it also had like a nice like a digital aspect.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was neat.
So yeah, I mean, all of that was great. Even the T sphere, the T ship, like the production design, the creation of the world was phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
Well, absolutely.
So then let's get to the effects.
Okay.
So lots of CG, guys. In case you didn't realize that a Superman movie would have a lot of CG with a giant kaiju, there might be a lot of CG. So. If y'all are coming here to say, there's too much CG, like, kick rocks, you know what I mean? Like, what do you expect in a Superman movie? The question is,
how else are you supposed to get it done?
How good does the CG look? And I will say that even myself, who is very lenient with CG, there are a number of times where you can definitely tell it's CG Superman flinging someone around. But I didn't hate it. Like, it was funny and appropriate for the scenes, but it's clearly not meant to be taken super seriously.
No, but the nice thing, at least though, with like that, they didn't linger on those shots. They were very quick with how they used them.
Not quick enough as far as avoiding the issue goes.
Whatever.
No. Look, I never nitpick about CG.
I know.
But I just know there's going to be people. I guarantee there's going to
nitpicks about
usually,
CG.
but I guarantee there's going to be people that say this is Matrix 2. fight level of CG.
Okay.
I know there's going to be people that say that shit.
Okay.
Because it looked a little bit that way to me
I know.
a couple of times.
I'm more
Not
giving you
every
shit.
time, just a couple of times.
There were literal 2 times where I was. That could have been better.
Yeah.
Like just.
But there was so much.
Yeah.
And most of it is so great.
Yeah, and you will also do you look at the credits and everything, and the amount of effects companies that were on this were insane.
Of course, though. Of course.
Oh yeah,
that makes sense.
Oh yeah, and but it also too what they filmed in I think 4 different countries. Something like that.
But the thing is, you can look back on the film and think immediately, oh yeah, that was CG, that was CG, that was CG. But there's plenty of things that looked so good that were CG that you could almost swear they were practical. Personally, I thought all of the assistant bots, I don't think a single one of those was practical. But they all looked amazing. The bots were practical?
When they were carrying him, that was all practical.
Really?
Yep. They had a thing online maybe a couple weeks or months ago.
But even when they're close up and talking and stuff? Is that all practical?
I want to say yes.
With the visors closing and everything? There's no way they had the closing visors.
We'll look it up after. I'm pretty damn sure.
Either way, so
if I'm remembering
if that's the case, then great, phenomenal. Because I was like, some of it you couldn't even tell.
Obviously, some of the movements and some of the action parts of it was obviously going to be CG.
Right, but
no, that initial scene, when they are carrying him and that whole talking scene, that's all practical.
Yeah. But for the most part, I mean, the kaiju stuff, that battle was really good. That was clearly it's CG.
That was funny and everything. And then even there was another shot too during a Superman and Lois discussion.
Right. Yep.
You just see in the background and everything just this giant green Louisville Slugger just coming down, and it's just little different things. It's like those are the things that make me definitely want to go back and rewatch the movie, because now that I've absorbed,
the context.
I've absorbed all the main focal points, and now I can focus on all the background stuff. And this movie especially has so much rewatchability.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Very few superhero movies nowadays are any more than maybe a watch and a half. This one, I can absolutely see myself rewatching this over and over again throughout the years.
Yeah, I agree.
And wanting to go back, I was like, fuck yeah, that's on Superman.
I'll watch this before the Snyder stuff for sure.
Yes.
I would rewatch Man of Steel because it does have its place. It's a great Elseworld Superman story with cool action and stuff, but it doesn't nail the Superman character the way this one does. And the world, that world doesn't feel like a world where Green Lantern and and Hawk Girl and all those could be.
That's fair. There would definitely be a lot more of like the obviously a grittier,
Yeah.
Can you imagine a Snyder Guy Gardner?
He'd fucking be killing people.
Oh my
or
God.
He would get killed as cannon fodder.
Oh, I know. It would be disappointing.
But yeah, so effects wise, it's CG heavy, but it's still really entertaining.
Yeah, and again too, you go back and how he utilized it even through Suicide Squad and things like that. He knows when to use it, and obviously for the big monsters and certain things, you're not going to be able to get away with that.
Right.
You're not going to get past it. So it's how you use it, and he definitely knows how to mix those camera angles and the 360 shots and shit like that with his CG. He absolutely does, especially with some of those quick fight scenes, because a lot of times certain fight scenes they'll do a lot of the cutaways and the quicks and shit like that. He does, but he doesn't. You can focus on just that right amount of fight, and then it whips you around, and then you're on another character, but still in the same fight, so on and so forth. And he does it really nice, and it flows very smoothly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, well, I think that's going to do it for our non-spoiler thoughts, guys. Let's be honest, we might have to record our spoiler thoughts another time.
I was just going to say that. I'm like, I got to go
It's too late. But this was a great, fun discussion. You guys are going to love the movie if you're anything like us. It was a great time. The best version of these characters, the best version of the comic book DCU brought to live action. And It did have a great. There are two post-credit scenes. There's a mid-credits and a post-credits. But I think the best part of the latter part of them, you know, the sort of the lead-ins to other things, is something else that happens during the regular movie, towards the end of it, which is something that I predicted, and it does indeed come true. So yeah, I'm excited for what we're gonna get next. Is something I will say. So there you go, guys.
That's fair.
So thank you guys very much for watching, especially if you've watched up to this point. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
Robert Wolfman.
And remember, stay scared.